It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The following podcast is brought to you exclusively by the Rad Rob Radio Network.
This is PBA Champion Kyle Troop, and you're listening to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. As you know, JP Jr. used to be introduced as the sexiest man in bowling, and now the world. But he doesn't have the best hair in the world. I do. Sorry, bud, but you know the deal. Pick it out. Fear the fro, baby.
Welcome to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. A hard-hitting, in-depth, cutting-edge look into the world of bowling. This podcast will not only cover all things bowling, but will also give you a raw look into real-life issues. You'll get unfettered access into the mind of one of the most gifted bowlers of this or any other generation. So without further ado, let's introduce you to the hosts of the show. Rad Rob, Rob Francois. Rad Rob, Rob Francois. Dr. Ocho. Dr. Ocho. And the incomparable Johnny Petraglia Jr. Johnny Petraglia Jr.
Hey guys, welcome back to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. I'm your host, Rad Rob, Rob Francois. This is episode number 88, and I am super excited to have our special guest on tonight. The hits just keep on coming here on Straight Up 5. We're going to welcome the Hitman, the Ryan Express, Ryan Ciminelli, the Stone Cold fucking killer of this year's PBA League. But first, before we bring him on and show you our extensive highlight package, which, fuck me, every guest we get on, the highlight packages get longer and longer. If we ever have Belmo on, the whole fucking show is just going to be a highlight reel. What am I doing? Oh, by the way, I do. And right before I went on air, I got an alert from Popeyes. Right there. They're watching. Let me bring in my first co-host. He is the man with the shiniest mask in the world. He has the largest guns on this show, and he is the resident doctor of Straight Up 5. Please welcome Dr. Jonathan E. Ocho. What's going on, Och? Are you muted? I can't hear you because all I see is your extensive biceps.
Are we supposed to be surprised that you got an alert from Popeyes?
No.
That looks like a Popeye bicep right there. When you got an alert, did it say like, please buy more because our stock is falling? Because I know they depend on you so much, or was it something about they saw your blood work and they said, hey, look, it's not our fault, don't sue us?
The latter, actually. Yes.
Okay. Well, but don't worry. There's potential for lawsuits. If that chick can freaking spill some hot coffee on her from McDonald's, you can easily relate your diabetic coma to Popeyes.
That's a good point. That is a very good point. Also joining us is a man that hopefully is sitting next to Dr. Ocho.
Soon. He's indisposed at the Mo. Sometimes duty calls.
I gotcha. Well,
so we're gonna hold down the fort, and then he'll be back. Hopefully, he cleans it too.
It's 6 to 8 minutes, somewhere around there.
And you know what? I don't know. I have a feeling that we're going to be graced with the presence of the second best lefty in a second.
I don't think there's ever a show that I am the best.
No, never.
Rob's here. That's why.
Exactly. So sorry about that. You know, when Mother Nature calls, she calls, right?
Hello, Johnny. Welcome, sir.
What's going on, guys? Good to be here as always.
It's good to have you here. I'm excited to speak with Ryan tonight. He's hanging out in our green room. We're going to get into our highlight package. It's about 15 minutes long. No, it's not.
Sounds good to me.
It's about 5 minutes long, but let's take a look at the career of the one and only Ryan Ciminelli.
Ciminelli needing just 5 hits for his first tour title. Stay behind the foul line, keep it all the way. Southpaw, TA cheering for him from behind. To walk in, ready to celebrate. Ryan Ciminelli. Thank you, Dublin. Thank you. The young man who grew up emulating Parker Bowden III finally returns to precedence with the PBA Tour title. Ryan Ciminelli, the young man from outside of Buffalo, getting his first Buffalo Liquidators PBA Tour title. We asked.
Gotta have it. Game over.
It's high and Ryan Ciminelli, you're a repeat champion on the PBA Tour.
Great comeback. Great comeback for that kid, his father, his family.
And a rare opportunity to enjoy a PBA Tour victory. For the second time in his career, you hoist the winning trophy. Congratulations, Ryan Ciminelli.
That might have been his best shot of the day. This down. He hasn't come close to missing on this lane. Not his best shot, but it doesn't matter because Ryan Ciminelli is a champion. Now the emotion comes out. For the first time in his promising career, Ryan Ciminelli is a major champion, defeating Don Barrett to win the Bull 23. He'll get the green jacket, signifying him as the winner of the Bullmore AMF US Open with a beautiful trophy. And also a beautiful check.
Rank of competition. He was a high school state champion in the state of New York in 2004. College, he was the Rookie of the Year and First Team All-American at Erie Community College in 2004 and 2005.
It's up to my peers now.
His PBA Tour opportunities, and his family comes first, and now he is looking for help, Randy, in a certain coach.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Results at the end of the year.
Kimberly Kressler is with our champion.
Got a hook.
Ryan Ciminelli is your PBA Extra Frame Parkside Lanes Open champion. First ever, his 7th title, Randy.
All right. We have one more of those in him for a title. That's it. Ryan Ciminelli is back in the winner's circle.
He is the PBA champion for the 8th time in his career. Very happy for you, brother. Very happy for you. Take a check, first off. I don't want to get in the way of that.
Go off the sheet. 253.
And it's all over.
A strike. Can they claim it?
Ciminelli does it!
Done! So good, man!
It's a strike for Ryan Ciminelli! And the Waco Wonders are going to win the 2023 MLS Cup!
So good!
What a shot for the closer! The Ryan Express finishes this match. It's the satisfying moment of the match, sponsored by Snickers. Nothing satisfies like a Snickers. How sweet it is for Ryan Ciminelli.
If there's any question about who the MVP of this event is, there shouldn't be. It's him.
Celebration time for the Hall of Famers. Petraglia Bone the third.
It is my great pleasure and my honor to introduce Ryan Ciminelli. Good evening, Ryan. Thank you for waiting so long to get here, but quite a career you've had already. But thank you for joining us tonight. How are you doing?
Man, you almost brought tears to my eyes with that first one, watching Freiburg come out again, man. Oh, I love that kid.
Oh, yeah. I was hoping that would be in that clip. That was great.
What a great moment.
You know, being a fan and growing up emulating Parker Bone III, how cool was it to win the PBA League Championship? Knowing your history in the league and your former team, but being able to do it with somebody that you looked up to growing up had to be a special thing for you.
Yeah, I watched it back that night, and it really hit me hard, and hard enough that I felt like I needed to make a post and let everyone know how grateful I really was for that moment. There's not very many people that can say that a moment like that comes across, even as an athlete, just because of the longevity of our sport and how many years you can do it. A moment like that, you know, you're never going to have a moment like that in almost any sport, really. You see it every now and then with golf. You know, those guys getting to play a tournament alongside like Watson or someone like that, and Nicholas. There's just not many. You can't really just start rattling off people that have that know what that feeling is, what that moment is like. And the thing I'm most thankful for is that in that moment, I knew how special it was, and I soaked in every moment of it. Those couple moments with Parker especially, and the smiles and just seeing it in his eyes and what it meant to him too. Man, it was something special.
So let's talk about the look. Not only just this year, but every year you're at Bayside, you always seem to mow them down. I mean, dark web the whole time. Like, are you just
whole time?
It's obvious that you're comfortable in that building. You're comfortable in that format. You've always been successful on teams all the way back to Erie Community College when we were in college together. What do you think? What is it when you're in that environment? Because even watching that reaction compared to your 8 PBA victories, the raw, true, real you is very, very visible there compared to the more emotional, I don't want to say less charismatic version of you, but you really
more reserved.
Yeah, reserved. That's the right
more
word.
Reserved. Yeah.
What's the contributing factor for you in that element? What is it that's driving you?
It's I'm a complex human, honestly.
That's why you run this show.
There's a lot.
This guy over here was a mask, for crying out loud.
There is a lot to unfold there. but to keep it fairly short, having others rely on me. I love being able to step up to the plate for someone else. When I was with Portland for the whole city, when it was to make the finals, then when we finally won, to be able to make a few shots that were really clutch in those moments as well. Feeling like you're doing it for the city, that's huge. Obviously, the team, the whole aspect. In my opinion, our sport is a team sport. It's team from 9 a.m. bantams when you're 6 years old all the way through high school and then to college, and the first time you really bowl singles is on the professional level. And I don't know why we lost that. And we lost the World Team Challenge and things like that. And this league is our opportunity to bring that back more than once a year. The players within were lobbying to really push to figure out a way to make the league more than a 1 week thing. I personally love the idea of team bowling. I love the idea of how important every shot is, especially on those shows. It's a whole different animal when you're out there trying to do it for someone else. And when you're out there alone and, it's super quiet and you're trying to make your check and pay your mortgage, and it's a different side of you. It's more the business side. It's more about getting the job done. When you're out there bowling the league, it's not really about getting the job done so much as it's the journey with the team. And over those 4 shows, I think that was the prime example of watching a team continuously create chemistry and bond and trust in each other. And every show you could watch it grow, the communication and the belief in one another. And that's the prime example of what it's all about. And that Cinderella story that we pulled off is, frankly, I think it's what the league needed.
So absolutely. And on that wavelength, when did you start to believe, I mean, obviously you think you could win the entire time, but when did you really start to be like, holy shit, we're as good as anybody else here? Aside from the chemistry that we obviously saw as the shows progressed, but like, when did you start to be like, oh, I think they're in trouble?
So again, there's a lot to unfold. So once we qualified and Milwaukee was below us, as soon as qualifying was over and we saw the seating for everything and we knew exactly where everyone was, I gathered the team together and I looked at every one of them. I looked them right in the eyes and I said, guys, I don't know where we're going from here. I don't care who we do it for after this one. I promise you, it's already written. The script is already written. You know who we're bowling the first match. Do it for me. Give me this moment. And I said, you guys give me this moment, and I don't care. We could have the next one for you, the next one for you, the next one for you, and we'll just give me this one. And sure enough, we bowl them. And once we got out of the ladder and we regrouped.
Well, hang on 1 second, because I have a question. Because I don't even know. Can I ask what happened with the Pounders? I don't want to get too personal on you there, but
I got to be honest. I've heard a few different things, and I don't know really which one to believe myself. For me, on my side of it, I just don't understand how you can drop someone who led the team in qualifying, threw the shot to make it to the final of the division, proved yet again that even though I had a terrible season, I can still step up in that moment any given time, and I'm going to put it in the pocket. I'm going to Johnny Petraglia you. I don't care how bad my look is. I'm going to hit the 1-2, and I hope they strike. I'm going to make it go. I can will it there. I almost always have. I have that in me. I don't really know what that X factor is, but frankly, I don't care how uncomfortable I am. And the prior year, when I threw that shot in the 10th to close it out, to go to the finals, for the pounders, I was very uncomfortable. I was very unsure of my ball motion. I didn't know if it was going to hook, or if it was going to hook at 20 feet, or if it was never going to hook. I didn't know. But I knew that as soon as I stepped up and they put me in that hole, that I was going to make it hit the 1-2. And it was fortunate I did only need a mark to close out the match. And so I'm like, I mean, if it's 7 pins, if I throw it there, it's not that big a deal. I'll just make it. But ended up striking, and that's the perfect example. And then, I have another bad year, and never did it cross my mind, because as soon as we were done, me, Marshall, Sean, Dick, we all looked at each other, said, this is our core. We're doing it again. No ifs, ands, or buts. This is it. We'll build another team. If we can get the same team back, we'll do it, etc. And then all of a sudden I'm gone, and there was no communication. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I heard a few different things. I'm not going to really say, because I don't know which is true at this point. So, I mean, it is what it is. The bottom line is I took that personal. I mean, how do I not?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for sharing.
I don't understand the move, and since I don't understand the move, like with Portland, for example, when they dropped me after we won, I get it. Like, it made sense. I understand. And so there was no hard feelings. I mean, Chris Prather was having a Player of the Year run, and Kyle and Wes were doing their thing, and they were the 4 or 5 for a lot of it. And Wes ain't going nowhere. And Kyle was bowling fantastic, and we got Prather with that first pick. So I'm like, after we won, as a matter of fact, that year after we won, my buddies were there, my wife was there. We went back to the house, and we sat there. We were having pizza, having a couple drinks, enjoying the win. And I stopped in the moment, and I looked at everybody, and I said, guys, enjoy it tonight, because this is it for me. I'm going to be off this team next year. And they're like, stop. What are you talking about? No way. They can't do that. You made that shot and this shot, and you're so clutch. And sure enough, time came, and I kind of understand, because those 3 are such a strong core. And then on top of that, there's a heavy belief by, I think, a majority of the right-handers that in that building, lefties are replaceable with another lefty. And you can kind of move us around like pawn pieces, and if you have one of us, you're good, and it doesn't really matter which one that is. And I think they believe that. And I think we've proven that that's not really true.
No, it's not.
Graham Fall was a great pickup by him this year, and he threw all 10 that he threw, and that was phenomenal. But Packy bowled terrible. Like, had they froze Packy, they're in trouble. Like, it's just, we're not just interchangeable. You're not just, and I think a lot of them kind of think that way. I was more replaceable in that moment than Prather. And so I was gone, and I knew that was going to happen. And, but this one didn't make sense. And so this one pissed me off.
Isn't it a little bit ironic that Prather bowled so bad? And
he did not bowl well this year. He has bowled well pretty much ever since they drafted him.
Yeah.
You're bound to eventually not bowl well, but yeah, I was a little surprised that he didn't bowl well. He kind of sees the lane the way Arturo does. Steep angles, soft, can get it off of any spot almost no matter what. And his ball just wasn't really doing it. I would assume something was going on physically that his ball wasn't seeing it right, but I don't really know. It is a little ironic though.
Johnny was thinking the same thing, that it was probably something physical, because I mean he's a fantastic bowler, and it wasn't the pressure of the moment. I mean, we all know he can compete at the highest level. So we were under the understanding that there had to be something wrong physically, because mentally,
I feel like for whatever reason, I don't know his game that well, but there was one shot in particular that I saw project off of his hand really fast, and to me, it looked like the issue was probably his swing being steep. Now, for him, I don't really know what causes that. Could be a couple different things, but I think maybe that's what he was fighting, and so his projection angles were off, and I think he was just having a little physical issue there.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask. You had already said, like, after you got through the pounders, from there it was like anybody that needs a win will get a win. But after you beat the pounders, you kind of just started from there. It was just kind of like a free roll, like, here we go. Because what I witnessed from watching was everybody collectively, like you said, got more and more comfortable.
Me and BJ really talked about it, and we were trying to figure out how to get Frank and Sterner more comfortable. And in the midst of that, Dick Allen, of all people, who was part of the reason I got dropped off the other team, so ironically enough, he come over to us and he said, you guys, you got a couple purples on the team. I don't really know why you're not utilizing them. And I'm like, that's a valid point. And the really good thing about that point is that I know that Sterner and Snodgrass would get more comfortable doing that. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's our answer, because that's all I want is them to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. And so I went back and I talked to them about it. I said, hey, guys, what do you think? And they said, well, yeah, we're not against it. We both like to play straight. So we start talking about it, and they're pretty committed. And so the next day we're going through, we're practicing, warming up. They throw it a few times on the old bay, and we only get the one shot on each lane before the show over there.
Right.
So we go over there, and we're standing there, and they both kind of looked at me, and we're getting ready to throw our shots, and they go, we're still doing this? We're going to do it? I'm like, yeah, I think we're going to do it. I mean, you got to at least look at it on one, and if it's even close, you commit to it and you do it on the other. We already know what Reactive is going to do. And BJ heard the conversation, and BJ looks at me and he goes, we're going to do what? And he didn't know. He didn't know that we had that conversation. And I put my arm around BJ and I'm like, look, man, this is how they're going to get comfortable. It's going to keep their ball in the 1-3. It's going to keep them out of trouble. And you're 8, Parker's 9, I'm 10. I think if they stay out of trouble, I think we can win with them just staying out of trouble. And then they got a little more comfortable, and all of a sudden the pretty good look and the comfort turned into confidence and a really good look. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves moving on, and me and BJ are sitting in the room, and BJ goes, I don't see why I can't do that. I'm like, thank you. I've been waiting for you to say that. I'm like, hell yeah, I want you to do that. And he's like, yeah, let's try.
You've gone to a pitch black in a title match after using a phase 2?
Yep, he was throwing a phase 2. I said, yeah, man. I mean, I fully agree, because we were doing our homework on the other teams, and you can see the lines. I don't know if you can't really see them on TV, but under those lights, you could see the lines so perfect. And nobody was throwing a single ball outside of the furthest right was 14. I said, guys, we got a best of 5, and you got the whole lane right of 14 to yourselves. There's no reason that we should not utilize that.
Absolutely. And just goes to show, I mean, no opens from anybody in that title match over the course of 3 years. I don't think you guys had a friggin' 8 count. And if you did, it was maybe 1 or a couple.
The worst shot was Parker's 3-pin.
Yeah, so there you go. That's a pretty good recipe.
Yeah, I would say that honestly, that was probably the most flawless performance that you can have in that league. That final, yeah. I mean, and it took every bit of it to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we won game 2 and 3 by 1 hit.
Yep, it's amazing. Rob, unless you have some precursor questions, I wanted to ask Ryan something else off the PBA league.
I do. I kind of want to just wrap up the league and the thoughts that I had. I was on vacation in Florida watching it, Ryan. So everybody else is having dinner and hanging out. And I'm like, I got to go into the bedroom. Don't talk to me. Don't bother me. Like, I need to see this. So I watched the entire show, all the 4 shows. And I was just as nervous as anybody. Like, I was getting sick to my stomach at one point. I made the mistake of not being able to know how to fucking count I didn't see Parker's overtime win. Like, I turned off the TV because I thought it was over. And I found out the next day that you guys won, and I'm like, how did I miss that? Can you put into words, like, how much Parker meant to that team? Like, what he did is fantastic, and it's phenomenal. And we know he's been around forever. We know he's won just about everything. But at this age, to still be able to compete on that level and close out a win for you guys, dude, that had to be, like, the coolest thing. It's just as a bystander to watch.
Yeah. I'm just glad I was able to give him that opportunity. Obviously, if I don't strike, we go home. So once I strike, it was deja vu for me. When me and the Lumberjacks won, it was a 3-person roll off where I had to strike to move on, or I had to strike to continue after Bill O'Neill struck, and then Tommy ended up getting up, and I think he 210 or 2810, so he got 7 or 8, and then Kyle only needed to get up and get 8 or 9, I can't remember, and he 10-pinned to win. And so, ironically, it was Tommy got 7 again for Parker to get up and only need 8, and it obviously that takes a ton of pressure off Parker. Granted, if Tommy even gets 9, Parker I think still strikes to win. I don't.
Yeah,
he's a legend. We know, but like I said before, to see constantly over and over when we had success and then when he did his thing, you could see it in his eyes, man. Like. It was almost like the dude was holding back tears the whole time. Yeah. Like he was just so engulfed in the moment, and the amount of jubilation that he had over and over again. I don't know if I've ever seen him that happy, honestly.
I agree. He had that spark in his eye again. Like he literally
really did.
Like you can see the old Parker in him. And you're right. He was very self-aware of the moment, which is hard for a lot of people to do when there's so much going on and there's so much on the line. There's so much pressure. But like you said, he's a pro. He he knew exactly what to do. At the end, when you won, I love when you said suck on that or suck on this or something. What
I said choke on that.
Choke on that. That's right.
Yep.
What did you mean by that?
When I got up in the 10th, I'm on the approach, and there's 2 or 3 dudes right to my left, like right off the approach, the second row, right behind the wives and the fiancés and all that of the teams. And as soon as I got set, they started chanting, choke, 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 choke. And I'm like, okay, that's what you want to do right now? So when I got up, obviously, and struck, and I was for sure going to shove it in their face. And so I was kind of out of body. I wasn't really thinking. And I watched it back. I just kept yelling choke on that. I was staring them down the whole time. If you watch me, I'm looking at the audience the whole time. On the approach, when I was off the approach, and I kept looking over. I didn't exactly know who did it, but I knew it where the little area it came from couldn't have been more than there was about 4 or 5 people. And once I did strike and the first time I looked over, when BJ's picking me up, I'm still staring them down. And I remember seeing multiple people on both sides looking at the area of a few dudes like, what are you guys thinking? Like, what are you doing? So like, you can't hear it on TV, but the people around him knew. I don't even know that my team knew at the time. I know for a fact the Lumberjacks didn't know. But the problem was, like, it was a continuous thing. Like, the crowd, I love the crowd there. Don't get me wrong, but there was a few moments that they were out of line. And one of them was during Parker's shots when the girls started screaming at the top of their lungs in his backswing. That was game 3, frame 4. And I remember because I turned around, I didn't know who was doing the screaming, but I knew he was going to strike anyways. And so I turned around, I'm like, you can try all you want. Keep trying. It ain't going to stop us. I said, he's a legend. And you only catch a little bit of it on TV if you watch it back. But, the crowd was kind of pissing me off. And I know my team, if you know my team, if you know Sterner, you know Parker, if you know those guys, you know BJ too. Those guys are not going to engage with it. They're not going to pay attention to it. Even if they did hear it, that's how they are. Me and Frank's kind of like me, I think. We are very good at using that stuff as fuel. I love it. It really gets me going, and I bowl better when I'm pissed off. So when someone is going to give me the free ammo, it's like loading up the gun. I'm like, okay, let's go then. Like, if this is what we're going to fucking do, like, we're going to do it then.
As if you weren't jacked up enough.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Bad
I love
judgment.
that. Well, dude, I said it when it happened that you were just a fucking ice cold killer, man. It was really good to see you in your form. I mean, that is the killer Ryan Ciminelli that we've seen over your career. So I was very happy for you and for your team, and especially for Johnny's dad and Parker to see them share that moment together. Yeah, knowing their history together, dude. It was just like I literally said it's a Disney movie. It's a Cinderella story. You can't make that shit up.
Literally, you can't make it up. Brandon flies in. Brandon, as far as I know, as when he was younger, especially, he looked up to me, and the way I look up to Parker looked up to Johnny. And I don't know if you know this. I know Junior knows this, but I don't know if you know this. When the tour was back in Buffalo, Dave Davis and Johnny used to stay at my house when I was like 2-3 years old, and Dave Davis and Johnny bought me this like elf doll. Remember the TV show Elf?
Yeah.
They bought me a little stuffed elf doll, right? Things scared the shit out of me. I was like 3 years old. But I kept that thing for decades, bro. I kept it for decades. And I'll never forget that they gave it to me. And I brought it up to Johnny, and I'm like, hey man, I remember you guys used to come to the house when you were in town, and because Dave Davis and my dad, they grew up together. And they grew up bowling action before Dave Davis went out on tour, because my dad was out in Phoenix. And a lot of people don't know that, like, the whole full circle, it doesn't just end there. Like, it's just all of them, man. We all are entwined, and it's just wild to see it all come together. And then I don't know if you saw the picture, Johnny, but we took a picture. I think it was Sydney's idea, actually. And we had Brandon sit down, and then I was like on a knee, and then Parker was like crunched, and then Johnny was standing up, and we're all like looking up at each other one after another. And so we got this badass picture of like the generations, and I have a blow up picture of it coming, a 27 by 20. I'm going to get framed, and I'm bringing it out, and I'm going to have all of us sign it, and I'm putting that in the trophy room. Is going to be badass. Yeah. But I think that's just that moment and that team and all of us together just doing it like that is, I mean, you can't make that up.
Yeah, dude. And not to mention, I mean, I'm bowling league at Howell Lanes the next week I got Dad's 2 pairs to my left and Parker's 2 pairs to my right. And Matt Russo's mom and dad are down in rev rates. I mean, it was just talk about a welcome home party. Yeah. I mean, it's and everybody everywhere that was pulling for you guys, I mean, just nonstop tears. It was one of the most enjoyable bowling shows that I've ever watched. Now, obviously, I'm partial to guys like you, Parker, and my dad, but it was still an extremely emotional event to watch this year. It was very, very good television.
It was theater. It was actually theater and drama. That's what it was. Like,
it was.
Which creates
I've heard that from people. Yeah, I've heard that from people that weren't so biased. Like it felt to me like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or not, but you know how as you kind of watch a team through a season, or you watch like a show, and you start to really like
you get invested, man. You get attached.
Like you like love that this character, like they can't die. If they die, I'm not watching no more. And it felt to me like it was like that for a lot of people that don't even really care about bowling. Like some people in my neighborhood, I'm like, hey, guys, tune in. I don't really know them that well, but we just moved here 11 months ago, and we got some neighbors. I'm like, hey, you guys might get a kick out of this. Tune in. And like the response from them, like, I'm hooked on bowling now. Like I'm gonna watch. That was so much fun to watch. I'm like, fuck yes. Like that's what it's about. Like get people into it. Get people like what do you call it? They're
invested.
Yeah, they're invested. Yeah, exactly.
And that's why we say like the drama in the theater. It's the same as the bases loaded with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, and pitcher versus batter. And you can have that happen every time, and your heart rate's going to go up. It's needing a strike to win, or a 9 count to tie, something like that. It's always going to get your heart rate up. And if the stage is set, if the theater is set, the drama's already there, and that's when people get hooked, man. And that's what's so cool, because you'll get the goosebumps sometimes. You'll be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this guy did it. What's he thinking?"
Yep.
Ryan, I want to cut off here real quick. One of our viewers in from Australia, Keegan, I saw his one of his messages earlier. He actually asked, who coached you to get to where you are with the explosive speed and power that you possess?
I grew up around.
You come from great bowling city.
Yeah, I grew up. Honestly, I learned from some of the, in my opinion, the best amateur players to ever live. I grew up watching the Mike Newmans and the Brad Kazuskis, and obviously Brad Angelo was in there at the time. He ended up going pro after the fact. My dad coached me, but another full circle was my dad coached Dave Gwindon, and a lot of people aren't going to know who Dave Gwindon is. Dave Gwindon, man, he's got a hell of an eye for the game. And growing up learning from righties that hook the whole lane, and I mean, I grew up really hooking the lane. I mean, you probably remember before I ever was really playing straight, that's all I did was hook it.
You love to
and the only reason I got so much speed and started playing straight like that was because, frankly, the tour patterns told me that I'm either going to do that or I'm not going to make a living. And I kind of, I adapted, I evolved, but that's how I grew up. And those are the guys that I formed my game after. And the running joke from me being, I don't know, probably 12 years old on was that I was a righty stuck in a lefty's body. And that's kind of, that was the MO that followed me and all the way till tour. And then finally I turned into a stereotypical lefty and just down and in because, and it's funny because
we're not going to do that with you. You're not stereotypical because you're cranking the bejesus out of it. At least you're ripping the cover off of it. You're not strong.
No,
it's funny because
I do get both sides of it, man. Shit, I mean, I want to curve it on everything, and
yeah, me too.
I'm not as good as him, so no, I'm really fucked. At least
Johnny, congrats on your 300. By the way, Johnny, that was really cool to watch that on.
I honestly don't know. I don't keep count of 300s. I don't. I know I have over 100 sanctioned in league, but yeah, that was my first one since coming back home a couple months ago. Knocked on the door a few times, had a 299 at Cavalier and a bunch of 279s, but they all fell at Howell game too. And what's ironic about that was I told my teammates when we started that night, I said, I'm going to bowl 300 tonight. I'm due. And the first game, I go 5 through the middle, first frame, 5 through the middle, second frame. Then I flag a 7-pin in the third frame. So I got like 24 in the third frame. So somehow I bail out a 193. Our team wins the game. And there's my buddy Dick is saying that the 300 ain't looking too good. And then sure enough, moved a little bit deeper in game 2 through a 12-bagger. So, yeah, that felt good. And it was with Dad's new BVL ball to benefit the veterans, which is a HK22 cover with a melee core. So real nice ball, and got to do it with Dad's new namesake ball.
Yeah, can't beat that.
When I start with a strike, I go, I got a 300 going. Don't jinx me. So everybody calm down. Somebody hear me. Don't be freaking talking to me. And then if I open, it's a good run, at least.
Yeah, it's a fantastic run.
Thank you, Keegan.
And there's my team, and like Babe Ruth calling us. It was a nice one. Yeah, Del, if you haven't punched up one of those yet, man, and enjoy that piece. I mean, even me who hits the shit out of it with medium ball speed, I mean, it's a nice rock. at least for bowling on something easy. I'm not sure how well it would fare on, a little bit closer ratioed patterns, but still, yeah, really, really nice piece. I'm actually can't wait to drill these new ones that just came out. I really, really want to drill that big time. You excited about any of the new releases?
Yeah, more than I usually am. Honestly, more than I usually am. I love that. I don't know what the absorption rate's going to be on that new, but I love that they replaced the urethane with something reactive, which hopefully will change the transition I bowl in when I follow those guys. So to me, that's the biggest part of it is if it's not going to create a puddle down lane and suck up the front, that's huge for me. If Butters is throwing that and Packy's throwing that, and I don't all of a sudden have this right to left puddle at 40, 45 feet, depending on the distance, that it was like Stu and Barnes. I watched their show and they said, the biggest issue for me is the traffic. And that's why I have struggled the past few years. It's the way they break the lanes down and the puddle that gets created down lane. And obviously even when I throw it slower, my ball speed is just too high. Even when I'm like 17 and a half miles an hour, I can't get it right to left far enough to get it through the front and still get it off of the spot through the puddle that they push down lane and get it through the pins. Like, it's this battle every week, no matter what we bowl on, and there's no keeping up with those guys when you're fighting those things. So if that new is going to change the transition that I'm seeing because it's quote unquote reactive, and I'm going to see normal traffic instead of urethane traffic, that obviously I'm all for that. Yeah, I do. For me, I want to see the big time. And I'm partial to the Piranha too, honestly, because I watched my dad bowl his high set of his life with a Piranha. So I hope that ball's good. I hope it's good for me. Obviously, almost every ball's good for somebody somewhere, but for me, I hope that I can use that piece. What do you got?
I got a question for you because when you and I roomed together at the World Series back in 2010, you destroyed the World Series of bowling throwing a natural. Mm-hmm. You probably drilled 24 naturals that year. And then it kind of seemed like out of nowhere, you just kind of started to hate urethane.
Yeah. So in my opinion, what happened is, for one, I never threw it on anything with a pattern that started with the number 4, right? So I'm throwing it on 39 feet, 35 feet, stuff like that. But also the oils evolved a lot over the past 10 years where the viscosities continue to get thicker, and obviously patterns are getting more and more volume, and then the distances seem to get longer and longer. And so I can't throw them anymore because if I get them to slow down, they slow down too much in the front and I can't feel shim because the ball's changing direction too early. And so I can't use them. And then these guys with their rev rates and their crazy, unbelievably good ball rolls and their soft speed and soft touch, they can shape them. I never shaped them. I played trap with them. And so the trap went away. I can't shape it like them. It's slowly evolved into something that it wasn't and something that I can't do. So yeah, I started off with a lot of success doing it, but that kind of evolved to the front's hooked too much. You can't trap the lane anymore. And these guys hooking it around me. And before you know it, it was all about who could get the ball to slow down on 30 mils, 45 feet. And here I am throwing the biggest pieces on the market to do it, and they're throwing purples.
Yeah. We asked Bob Learn this last week and Ryan Schaefer the week before, but what were your thoughts when, especially the USBC, were going after the storms and then the purple? What do you think is the reasoning behind all that? It doesn't seem like the USBC has been very transparent about why they're doing what they do, but I just want to know kind of what your thoughts or what you may have heard on the inside.
I haven't heard much of anything, honestly. I feel like everything kind of comes down to politics, honestly. You hear so many people say so many things, like you almost feel obligated to try to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I just...
Is there any indication of what their motivation is, though? Because it seems like it's so far-fetched, out of nowhere, directed individually, and against the rules. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they kind of supposed to be a governing body, but yet they made their own stuff up.
I genuinely...
Or you just kept that and said, you know what?
I can only speculate like everybody else. I don't know. Is it fear for the regression of the game? I don't know. Like, are they afraid that isn't that kind of like bringing like wooden drivers back? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, persimmon drivers or something like that.
Like, are they worried that the game's going to go in the wrong direction? I really don't know. I don't know if there's any type of malice behind it. I don't know. I've never really asked. I never assumed. Okay, so let me say this. I'm a bit of a pessimist. So over the past 3 years, my buddies, my wife, we all obviously have conversations, and they're like, do you think you're done out there? Like, with what's going on, do you see anything changing? Like, how can you be competitive again? And I'm like, frankly, yeah, I think I'm done. Like, they would have to make urethane illegal for me to be relative again. I mean, it's pretty simple. I'm like, and we all know that's not going to happen. And then like 10 months later, I see the post on PBA that the PBA hardness has gone up 6 points or whatever the hell it is. I'm like, shut up. Like, it didn't really happen. Like, that's the best thing that could possibly happen for my career. Now, I'm not saying like I'm going to be reignited and I'm going to go back to winning once, twice a year, whatever again. But if there's any hope for my career, that was it. And me being a pessimist, I'm like, there's no way that's actually going to happen. There's no way I'm going to have a chance again. And then it happens, and I'm like, holy shit! Like, maybe my career is rejuvenated. I don't know. We're going to find out, but it sure can't hurt me.
Johnny, do you think that not your thing on the new blue with the big fuck you to everybody?
Not necessarily a fuck you, but definitely we're ahead of the game. We're aware of the rule changes. We're offering something a little bit different to the public. And I'm with Ryan. I love the idea that I love the Purple Hammer more so than Ryan does. But I'm not out there like Ryan. And if I was still had my thumb on the ball and I was throwing it really hard, I probably wouldn't like the purple either. But for somebody like him, I would be jumping out of my socks also with the opportunity to see, because now what this allows is, forget about bumping the whole lane. I mean, Ryan's pushing 40, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking for you, but like, we're not banging it off the fourth, fifth arrow anymore. We haven't seen that in quite some time. But for you to be able to go out and play your now, I don't want to say your A game because you're good at everything, but the general area where you've won most of your titles from,
straight up five
with bigger balls, seeing.
I got really good at what they told me to do. I mean, it is what it is, right?
Which is a testament to your ability too, really.
Absolutely. And I think now that you're taking away that element that is like go-to for most lefties, like you said, whether it's 39 feet, whether it's 47 feet, everybody's throwing charcoal urethane. They're taking a pattern and making it obsolete at the time practice is over. And who are you following this way and that way? It's for somebody with your speed and your revs. I can only see something like this benefiting you. I actually wrote this on our buddy Sweep the Rack podcast show. I said the exact same thing. I said Ryan's probably a few lefties that's thrilled about this, whereas there'll be some that can contour to it, but then there's other guys whose games are strictly based off the motion that Purple Hammer has produced. I'm not going to throw out any names, but I mean, can you just when you put this in retrospect, if the pitch black didn't exist, how many titles do you think Jesper Svensson would have? Jesper's a younger guy. He's got a sick, crazy rev rate. But every time I see Jesper throw resin, he doesn't look near as comfortable as when he throws the pitch black, right? And it just goes to show why he throws it on every single show. I'm talking about guys like that whose games now, it's now you got to try and learn how to bowl more so the way bowling used to be before this craze started happening. Is that kind of on point?
Yeah. I think Stu said it best. And at our level, basically what he said is these top, we'll say 60 players are elite, right? We are all very, very good at something. And it just so happens that as waves come, someone and like a handful of guys or a type of player are going to match up to that wave. And so when I was going on my run before this wave, trapping the lane and getting the ball started in the front and needing a high rev rate to get it going, needing the ball speed to create the shim, like that was it. And so I just kind of fell into it for about 18 months where doing that was what we needed to do. And fortunately for me, like that's what they were saying we had to do to win. And then that wave kind of goes away and this one comes about. And now it's urethane, it's throwing it over the front or having a voodoo roll to get it through the front with a high rev rate to get urethane to shape. And like, it's this whole thing. And there's a few, especially lefties, that can really do that. And it showed. Now, we're all elite because we're all very, very good players and we're all excellent at something and can beat everybody in the world doing something. Now, it's different for everybody, but what changing this does is, and these are the words of Stu, and I completely agree with, he said, it's going to change the pecking order, right? Like these guys aren't going to completely fall off the face of the earth because you take the tool away. But it's going to take guys that are, top 3 to 5 or even top 10. And a couple of those guys are going to shuffle down into like the 20s. They're still going to be some of the best in the world. They're just not going to be on every other show.
Right.
The top 60 are jockeying for now, basically.
Yeah, your pecking order is going to switch up. You're going to see some guys go back up. If Barnes is still physically capable, like he could pop back up. Sean Rash, if his back holds up, like he could start making more shows again. Like, I know Don Barrett had that outlying year where he had a phenomenal year, but if you look at the past 5 years for Dom, besides the 1 year, the other 4 years were complete trash, and it's for the same reason. Yeah. And so guys like that, I think, are going to jockey back up in those positions and be a factor way more regularly again. And I'm hoping, and if stats are going to say anything, if that's the case, then I should be up there with those guys as well. Because if you notice on a lot of the shows that I make, there's a lot of the same people on them. And it's me, it's Barnes, it's Dom Barrett, it's Sean Rash. We all see the lane similar. We all understand like we're that mid to early lane hook and understanding how to like kind of trap the lane. We all do that very, very well. And so once they see that, I see it. You would think like, well, yeah, you would think. When I tell people this, they're like, well, how do you compare yourself to righties? I'm like, well, there's no lefty that sees the lane the way I do. Not one. I've never met one that sees the lane the way I do. So I look at the stats and I beat Dom for 2 of my 8 titles. Sean's beat me for two of his titles and bowled 300 at me twice on TV. Like, I bowled Barnes for a title. I've been on multiple shows with Barnes. Like, it's not a coincidence. It's because we all see the lane very similarly. And when it's a little bit more towards shot making and it's a little bit more towards shallow angles, you're going to see those same guys on shows. And it doesn't necessarily mean lefty righty.
That's a good point. I mean, we saw Kyle kind of.
Absolutely.
We saw Kyle throw some urethane this year, but Then you look at Belmo and EJ, they're cranking it with resin. I mean, it's funny how different bowlers do see the lanes differently. And, to see what EJ did this year is pretty phenomenal. Like that's, I mean, he had a hell of a run. And we were saying, like, if he had the amount of tournaments that they had back in the day, I mean, he may have broken Roth's record. I mean, he was just that on fire.
I mean, you can argue this till the death, but because he didn't have the opportunity, we'll never know. But in my opinion, it's the greatest season ever.
I agree.
It's not his fault that we only have 14 events.
Right.
If he has 32 events, at that rate, he's got 11 or 12 titles in 1 year. It's absolutely asinine. So, I mean, people...
just setting up the ring events per wins is still up there, too.
Yeah, not to mention, Simo had one of the best years ever.
Yeah, right. And he's competing with Simo.
Yep.
Simo's like, what the fuck do I have to do to win? I'm top 5 every week. Like, come on, man.
In my opinion, I think Simo, at the end of his career, as long as he stays healthy, stays doing it, I think he goes down as the best, or one at least arguably against some of the past ones. I think he surpasses Belmo. I think he goes down as the best ever.
Do you think Belmo right? You think Belmo right now is the GOAT?
I do. I look at the percentages, wins to tournaments bowled and things like that, and his percentages the last time I looked at him were better than Walter Ray's.
Yeah.
So how do you debate that? It's not, like I said, it's not any of our faults.
Yeah.
It's none of our faults that we don't have those tournaments. You can't put that on the player that he doesn't have 32 or 36 events in a year. Like, what are we supposed to do? Guy's got 18 shots at it a year, not 36.
Right. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, growing up watching, PBA on ABC and watching Walter Ray and Ozio and Albee and, all the greats, it's hard to argue with Walter Ray's longevity. Like, I mean, he's been bowling a long time.
I get it.
And still performing at a decent level and through a 300 two-handed. So, I mean, he has that, as well. But it's hard to compare because equipment's different, lanes were different. It's two different styles. I mean, everything's different. Yeah.
It's so hard to compare. But another point brought up that I was just talking about this. I don't know if you saw the posts and the comments on Facebook, but me and Wriggles had a conversation about this, and it started because people were asking, do you think the league should be a title?
Oh, yeah.
And I said it absolutely should be a title for only one reason, and that's our lack of opportunity to win titles.
Right.
And I said, even if it's its own category and you have it separated, and like, okay, so in theory, like, I have 8 singles titles and 2 team titles. Like, why should those not be mentioned, right? Because my whole issue behind this and my stance is that the 10 title thing to get into the hall has been like that for quite a while, and before, way back, it wasn't even 10, and now we have half of the events to bowl, and you're still requiring guys to get 10 titles or 5 and 2 majors. I for that, but how with 200 and I probably have 260 events now would be my guess, but I mean, Walter Ray's got to have 800 events, 900. Right. I don't know. It's up there. It's huge. Those guys, every one of those guys that have been around for that era, they all have 700 plus events. We're never going to get anywhere near 700 events. So You're going to ask us to get to 10 titles as well? How's that fair?
I mean, 8 in a major you'd think would be good enough. I mean, especially with all the shows that you made as well.
And now if you were to bring the league into it and say, all right, well, it's not a singles title, but it should be recognized as such.
Well, the doubles is recognized.
Now you can say, I have 8 titles with a U.S. Open, 2 team titles, an MVP. The MVP should matter. Like, that stuff should matter just because we don't have enough. We don't have enough to create any substance in a career. You don't have, I mean, EJ and Simo and those guys, sure. But another point I brought up during this conversation was you're going to have years now, and you're going to have these huge gaps where no player is eligible for the Hall of Fame because, frankly, there's not enough events to get guys there.
Yeah.
And so they had, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. The guy's name, the historian that he knows everything about everything, essentially, when it comes to us. He did the homework on it. He's like, yeah, matter of fact, you would, if it goes on the way it is, you'll have gaps. And it was like there's a gap in 2006, 2007. So there's going to be a 3, essentially from 2005 through 2006, 2007 into 2008. There's going to be a gap of nobody eligible on athletic performance. You got, I think Belmo was 08, if I'm not mistaken, and you had Sean and those guys that were 2005 or 6 or whatever it was. And then I was in 2007 when I got my card. So now the 20-year thing comes up, and I'm eligible by time in 2026, I think it is technically the 20-year mark. So in 2026, you'll have gone a year already, and then you can go another year if I don't get there based on the 10 titles. So do you just leave all of us out? Like, do you leave a guy like me out? Do you leave a Dick Allen out who's got 8 titles? It's just there's a gray area and it gets foggy. Like I'm glad
it's like the Don Mattingly.
They made the committee, and I think the committee, hopefully, it was the reason for that was to avoid this, to get guys in that probably deserve to be in. But I don't know. Like I feel like there should be more going on with the talk about it. There's not enough people are talking about it.
Well, like I said, if they're going to count the doubles, why not count the team? It's not a single
and
title,
we counted the team in Vegas when we did the 5-man team there. And frankly, there was no TV and the atmosphere was nothing like this.
Right.
So if you're going to count that, how do you not count these as titles? These, with that atmosphere, with those huge shots and all that goes into the league and all of the, as we spoke about earlier, all the emotion and all just raw energy and emotion that comes with that, to not give that a title because why? Because it's a team thing, or because like the crowd's loud and it's like this rowdy? No, screw that. Like the Waste Management.
Or were they wanting to say, Ryan, the crowd is loud at the Waste Management.
I mean, still a title. Like
16, 17, 16, 12, right?
Just yeah, totally agree. We can give my dad an asterisk as the manager. He doesn't get a title because he can't win in 7 decades if he doesn't throw a shot. But the team itself is certainly supposed to have a title. The same way a doubles title. Again, I apologize, you, Ryan, you, Rob, and everybody listening in. A couple technical difficulties over here, which is why we keep bouncing in and out. But wanted to apologize real quick there.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I think eventually they should count it as a title. I mean, there's so much that they put into it. I mean, for the draft and all that, they try to make it a big deal, and an event that you need. Yeah, an event that you need to watch. So like it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what it would take to get it in there. Maybe a vote from the players. I don't know. I mean, you guys should have a union for Christ's sakes, but.
And Rob, like Ryan said earlier, what amazes me is that there aren't other bowling center proprietors out there saying, shit, we can one-up Portland, Maine. Like, I would figure there's at least 5 other proprietors that love bowling as much as, what's his name, Charlie? I'm surprised that there's not other centers, like, itching and begging, like, aren't there people in like fucking South Dakota that love bowling? Aren't there people in like random places across the Bible Belt that, or like somewhere in Detroit, like in Thunder Bowl? I mean, There's got to be some other places that you would think where, like, hey, man, this is really a thing. Do something, you have tailgate parties outside, and it's literally like a fucking tour, man, all on its own.
Our shows were at 8 o'clock. They were lined up at 4 o'clock to come in to party.
That's what I mean.
See, and nobody knows that either. That's the shame of it.
Yep.
True. I mean, cities should fight for it, or centers should fight for it, like the Super Bowl. Like, I want to host the league this year. So Johnny's right. I mean, that should be a thing. Unfortunately, it all comes down to money, right? I mean, the logistics are there. There's plenty of centers that could do it, but it's just like the Olympics, like if there's enough money behind it, anything can happen.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's a draw, and you could put the blame on Bolero for not hyping it up, that much.
I was going to throw a Bolero dig in there real quick, just to say, like, because they swooped up everything.
Oh, we always do. Yeah.
It was just a Bolero dig. That's all.
That's all.
Keegan, the torch. I see your thing. The torch is getting past the Simo for sure. It's Simo.
Yeah, I agree. Simo is the chosen one. Unless EJ goes on. I mean, fuck, who knows? I mean, if EJ can duplicate what he did this year for multiple years, then he could be in the picture too. The fact that he has a 500 rev rate with one hand is fucking stupid, and just kills it with resin. Like, it's just, the guy's a freak, man.
What do you think my rev rate is? I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, yours has got to be right around EJ's.
It's got to be, right?
Totally different motion.
It is a different motion.
There he goes again. Yeah, it's just different.
Let's see if we got any more questions here. I got one from Dan Young. What was bigger for you, winning in Maine or beating BJ Skiffington in the action match?
It's definitely Maine, but there was a lot of reasons why beating him was nice, and there was people that behind the scenes I felt like I was doing it for, and as I told you before, doing it for others, for me, that's what it's all about. And so it meant a lot more to me. It wasn't just about it ain't about $1,000. Like, I don't really care about.
Right.
It was nice to take $1,000 off of them. Don't get me wrong, but
when isn't it?
It wasn't about that.
Do you wish there were more games to win a national title?
Yeah, of course. I wish our blocks were shorter and we bowled more of them. I think our patterns get destroyed way too fast nowadays.
True.
We went to 6, and that's a great start. I think 6 is a very good start. The fact that our patterns are demolished 2 games in and the integrity is essentially gone, and the righties the guys on tour are so good, and they can make every pattern do exactly what they want it to make in a matter of a couple games as a collective, because they want to do the same things. So yeah, I think the less games we can bowl before reoiling, the better. Like, if I could bowl 3 or 4 game blocks and bowl 3 or 4 of them in a day, I'd rather do that than bowl an 8 game block. But I'd love 3 days of it. Like, I'll go back to 2-3 days of qualifying, or 2, make it cut, cashers round, make it cut, do match play, do best of 7s again, like all that stuff. We don't change.
And they're reoiling each time too. This way, there's less lane breakdown, I guess. It sounds like.
And with the match plays, like, it's a whole different animal sitting on a pair, breaking it down by yourself, doing your thing. Whether it's a lefty versus a righty, or a lefty versus lefty, or righty versus righty, it's all about, like, who can do it better in the match. Like, if it's a lefty versus lefty, like, who can stay ahead of it, and a righty versus righty, obviously same thing. Or if a lefty's got the whole lane to himself and the righty's got the whole lane to himself, like, who can create who can develop the pattern easier, create more margin of error, and just flat out make them so easy that they can't be beat. Like, that's a whole different animal than following.
Does that attest to someone's athletic ability?
Doing what?
Like, that's my issue with it. Like, that doesn't really attest to. That doesn't decide who the best bowler is. It decides who the guy who could break down the lanes the best. That's all. Like,
okay, so that's more about the bowling IQ than it is the athletic ability. It's a different.
That's what I'm saying. It's because it's a sport. It's supposed to be an athlete. That's my thing.
Well, it's a different
be a
part
physics
of
major now. It seems.
Well, yeah. I mean, with these balls and all this technology, yeah, you do have to. Your bowling IQ has to be extremely high on tour, otherwise, your talent level's got to be out of this world.
Now, does that deter from fandom watching? Then, do you think?
I don't know. Does it?
This is the debate we've had for 2 years since we started the show.
I'm not saying I want one or the other. My argument is that we should have different. There should be variety in our formats. Like, if you hate that format, then wait till the next week, and the next week is another one. Like, I just think we don't switch it up enough, in my opinion.
No, what you said makes total sense because, like you said, like if they can play the lanes the same way every week by having to sacrifice a game and a half of setting up a track and then getting in their spot, and then again, it doesn't really take to the athletic ability of the bowler. It's a guy repeating the same shot he repeats every week.
I'm gonna interject on this because I was actually listening outside to make sure that the quality of the video is good. It's honestly just us.
To make sure he could see these. That's all. Hello.
What I was going to say here was I'm going to give a little love to the lefties here because more oftentimes than not, if you're a lefty, you stink. That's what people say. You can only do one thing, yada, yada, yada. You have it easier. The lanes never change. And typically, these are right-handers that are saying this. The left is easy. You never have to move. Meanwhile, the same righties are the same righties that say, yeah, I'll play the track area for the first game and a half, bail out around even until I can jump into the fourth arrow and play fallback and average 250 for the next 6 games. It's like, thanks, motherfucker. We can't do that. So now we are forced to do the only thing we actually can do. We don't want to
because then you're in crossfire if you even try to. So
it's a double. You're literally sitting here telling us the lanes don't change for us, but if they don't change for you, you can't bowl 250. Unless you're, one of the best.
Which has got to be why he changed his game, obviously. That's like what you're saying is why he changed his game.
Don't have any talent, right?
It's weird how all of this stuff is falling back to the same things where one thing makes sense because of that makes sense in this, and I said that because this and this. Yep, it all makes sense, doesn't it?
I would love nothing more than to jump into the fourth arrow, yank it 2 boards, and leave a 6-pin.
Yeah,
right.
Don't go fucking runaway Brooklyn. Don't go big 4.
Or how about the one that misses down lane like 5 out and somehow smacks the head pin light and throws them everywhere, and you're like, oh,
or you're begging for.
I thought that was 3.
Please give me that just once.
It happens. That happens. It just does. So it doesn't happen for us.
But that makes a lot of sense though. When he says, "Let's do 4 game blocks," the lanes can't get destroyed, and they gotta, and then we'll bowl 3 or 4 times on it. I'm good with that. And the same number of games. It's just it's like research. It's like the Zamboni coming out in hockey, basically.
Exactly.
Like you're coming out and clearing out the freaking shrapnel because
because we have how many patterns now? Like the PBA's got to have 25 patterns, right? What's the point when after 2.5 games they're essentially the same every
It's the same thing. Exactly.
It's a matter of
the Ocho pattern. The Ocho pattern is voluminous over here.
It's a matter of what ball or what shell they got to get into to do it, but like the angles are always steep. It's always about who can throw it as far right as they can and get it to slow down. It's the same battle every week, and I'm not saying it's anyone's fault, but if we could eliminate it by bowling 4 game blocks instead, it takes time to run the lanes. You lose an hour and a half if you're running a whole house, and do you really want to keep coming back to the building? I know a lot of the players, they might be biased, but they don't want to keep coming back to the building. And, okay, we got to wait around for 2 hours. Then we got to bowl again for 2 hours. Then we got to wait around for 2 hours. Then it's our living, and, you should want fairness. And the fairest way to do this, if we're going to have 25 patterns, you'd imagine you'd want the integrity of the said patterns to hold up. And if we're bowling 8 game blocks or whatever, that's not going to happen. Now, 6 is definitely an improvement. We've definitely improved this past couple of years where we bowled a couple 6 game blocks, and really thankful for that. But even so, we know at 2 games, about 2.5 games is when it happens. And so, what?
And they can even get ahead of it with that too. They're already preparing. They're like, all right, we're
yeah. these guys are way too good and way too smart, man. They know. And
they're really smart. That's what it is.
Like EJ is more than
good
content.
anyway, but man, they're smart.
EJ is more than content going 170 the first two if he knows that what's going to happen
he's going to
go allow him to bowl 840 the back three.
Yeah.
And he like they could bowl 170 and have no anxiety, no stress about it because he knows in 15 minutes I can do this and I can throw this ball and I can do that. And he's going to average 245.
This is the most insight we've gotten on here about this too, by the way. I don't know if you're sharing secrets, which we don't care. We're going to blast it everywhere.
Well, I mean, it's kind of common knowledge. Honestly, it's common knowledge out there. I'm not. There's nothing hidden.
No, I know you're not saying anything, but for amateurs, because people go, hey, well, they only shot 170. Why are they so bad? Meanwhile, we know they're bowling on the hardest patterns in the world. Amateurs don't know about the breakdown. You guys do, of course, but that's what's pretty wild about this. You know, you're the one guy that's actually like explaining it in the way when we say, hey, what would they do? And they're like, I don't know. It's the same. It's still bowling. You got to make your shot. No, these guys are breaking the lanes down to create their shot.
They're doing exactly what they want to do, and they do it.
This is fucking awesome.
There's nothing you can like, and this doesn't just affect lefties, and so like this is why Barnes has kind of taken a back seat. He sure as shit isn't all of a sudden forgetting how to make shots.
Right.
It's because he can't get far enough left and make his ball do that down lane. Granted his age, but like his rev rate was never high. So like even in his prime, I don't know that he would be able to get that far left and keep up with those guys getting the ball through the pins the right way over and over again.
And he was always up the back of the ball, so a lot of forward ball.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and Norm Duke calling it quits. And like Norm Duke, who almost just beat Simo to win the Masters not even 2 years ago. Like he's done now. Like he's not done because he's old. They're done because what's happened with the game and what they cannot do. They know they can't keep up. And it's frustrating because they're not worse. Like they didn't forget how to bowl. Like they deserve a chance to win still. They're that good. Absolutely. Barnes is still that good. And it's just a damn shame that he doesn't get the opportunity. Guys like that are just
couldn't agree
more.
Sucks.
It does. It sucks. But
you really
I know they're trying to.
I'm just saying it.
What's that?
You really are a pessimist, though, which is good. You.
Oh no, 100%. We know that. Johnny knows that.
But he's right though.
Like pessimist. It's not. You're not wrong. That's the thing.
Thank you. I tell my wife that all the time. I'm like, no, I'm a realist, not a pessimist. Like, just because what I'm saying is negative doesn't mean I'm not right. Like, I'm just telling you what I see, and that it's true.
No, it's full on reality. Which, like you said,
they don't pretend like everything's gonna be all gravy, but it's not. Like, no one has an answer. Otherwise, the answer would have already happened. They don't know what to do to stop this, and they're trying.
This is what we've been discussing for 2 years still. That's wild, man. That's wild. You're the first one to throw out the complete insight, and it's only a lateral move. It's not like you figured anything out.
Yeah,
but
100%.
Yeah, you know what can be done at least.
Yep.
Yeah, you are the only one that came on the show and really broke it down like that. Like, come on, it's Pete Weber, Norm Duke, Walter Ray, Parker. These guys didn't forget how to fucking bowl. They're the best bowlers of all time. It's the fucking it's
saw Parker at 60. I mean, his knee bend is still fantastic. Like he posts every shot still. Like there's no way that he shouldn't be able to compete every now and then.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying like week in and week out a 60-year-old should be able to keep up with these kids, but throw a bone, man. Like, geez, like there's no way that you can't figure out a way to make a pattern where these guys are still relative.
Right.
And that's why, like the Masters,
or at least
he makes the Masters show because they're freaking hard.
At least attribute their shot making ability because they're taking that away. Like these guys aren't missing and throwing washouts. They're throwing the ball where they legit want to and washing out. And that's not an attribute to how bad they are.
I can't tell you how many times in the past 2 seasons I've texted my wife and I said, well, I just aced 1 for 5 again. You know how old it gets when you label a shot and you get half? It's like, why in the piss am I out here? Like, what am I doing?
That's got to be on a shirt. We got to do it. Get the art department here, Rob. We got to put that on a T-shirt.
We do need it. We do.
Ryan full pose saying, aced another 5 count. We'll split the profits with you. That's good stuff. Actually, we're 80-20. We get 80%, so let's still.
Well, I mean, how do you stay positive, Ryan?
He does.
What do you? I mean, what do you want to do with the rest of your career? Like, what are you trying? I mean, obviously to get 2 more titles, but what's your outlook on the next 10 years or so?
I think that even though I'm considered a power player because of my ball speed, I think that I'm going to be one of few in these upcoming generations that can continue to do it into their 50s. A lot of these guys are deteriorating, I think, at earlier ages, and I don't know that they can do it as long. So my hope is that, obviously, I want to get into the Hall on regular PBA, and I want my couple titles, and I still think I got another major in me somewhere. I do believe that. I don't know where. I don't know what. I couldn't tell you. I always thought I was going to win the Masters. I also never thought I could win the U.S. Open. Sure. So, I mean,
would you describe yourself as a streaky player because you're kind of like always there, and then you're gone, and then you're there, and then is that, and maybe you're on a hot streak again? So,
you did take up some
my
time.
career
right, for your own thing, right? That's true too.
I mean, you've had a couple lean years along the way,
up, and you were there for 4 years or so, just crushing it.
I mean, 2015, he fucking killed everybody.
Yeah, so like from 2010 to 2018, 17. So for about a 7 or 8 year span there, just because I only went into winning for a little hot streak there where I was winning a bunch or a handful of them in a 14-month stretch or whatever it was, I was still making a lot of shows. And one of the biggest things that I'm really proud of, I think it still stands, is that no, I don't have the shows of a Walter Ray or a Norm Duke, and I'm not even close, and I never will be. But my TV average, I believe, is still the highest TV average of anyone in the history of the PBA. So
You don't bowl very
They
many
can't
bad
take that
games.
from you.
I'm not losing these matches and these title games with bad games. These people are bowling monsters against me.
Yeah, you're losing 260 to 240 or something. That's still nothing. Really.
Or Sean Rash shooting a 300.
Sean bowls 300 at me, and then for a title in Oklahoma, he bowls 290. I bowled 240. I'm never in the match. I bowled 240. Graham Fall with the outlawed Carnage, Jackal Carnage that got outlawed, bowled 279 at me for a major title. I bowled 247. Like, I'm never in the match. Like, those things that mean a lot to me that people probably don't think about very often, because one, you don't really think about the loser, and two, the scores are only relative, but they're relative until it becomes a trend, in my opinion. And so that trend is that I'm good under the lights. Like, I score. It's just these people are bowling monsters against me.
Yeah, it's 100%. I was actually trying to think back of like the last time I saw you bowl poorly on television. I don't think I ever have, really. I mean, it's been a couple games here and there where maybe you lost a look, but you, like you said, every game is. I didn't actually realize that you were the highest average, but now, yeah, that makes sense.
So him losing a look
31
211 or something like that.
I'm thinking about the numbers. That's why I'm stumbling over my words, but I'm like, holy shit, like he's right. Oh my God. And that's how many TV appearances, Ryan?
I honestly couldn't even tell you anymore.
You got to be around 20,
25. 25 would be my guess, I think.
You know what you need to do? You need to win a game like 185 to 148 or something like that.
So the only time I can remember, I've done it one time on TV, and that was against Fagan at the TOC. I bowled 184 or something against him, or might have been 190 and he bowled 180. I can't remember, but both games were sub 200. And the next match I bowled Belmo, and I started out, I either flagged a 7 or I chopped a 247, whatever it was. I had 9 in the first frame. And then I ended up throwing the next 9 at him to bowl 266 or whatever it was. And then that's the one that Sean beat me for the TOC title of the year. He won Player of the Year. I still bowled a pretty solid game against Sean that too. But that show is one of my worst performances because I bowled a sub 200 game, and I still bowled for the title, and I still bowled a good match in the title match. And Sean needed a strike to beat me, and through I would argue the best shot of his career to beat me.
Yeah, good for him.
Still
step it up.
Still, 8 wins with 25 shows. That's nothing to sneeze at, though. Like that's a good record. I mean, look at how many shows Marshall made and didn't win.
It's the title matches that bothers me. I think I'm 8-11 or 8-12, something like that. So I'm definitely sub
238 average or something.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
True. I mean, that's
sub 500 with like two. I mean, in title matches, it might be more like 240 if you look back.
It really,
You know what, man? It's a testament to your talent. People get up against you. You know, they know they need a certain number to beat you, especially on TV.
Another one was Scott Newell, his only title, 247 to 245. He needed the first hit in the 10th to beat me. Snapped a 10 out and beat me. I mean, it's 245 losers like that. That gets old. That old.
Does. Yeah, I bet. No, I could see that.
I could see that get old.
That's pretty rough. John, anything else as we wrap it up here?
What's that?
Would you have something?
I said, how many holes in your walls do you have? Like when you get home and you're just like, well,
I don't wait till I get home, bro. Like,
all right, so the whole
in the paddock,
back the hotel room, leave a $50 tip. Well, you still made
$5,000
or something like that.
A couple of bathroom stalls need to be reset.
Just take the towel rack off and be like, you know what, I'm taking this home.
Rob, I do not have anything to add. I definitely think that an hour and a half of Ryan's time has been more than we bargained for, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
And the info that he spewed out, man, this was gold.
Yeah, we learned a lot tonight.
I only stayed on and I only kept talking because I enjoy it. This was one of my favorite ones. This was nice. I could do this often. This is cool.
Well, thank you, Ryan. We appreciate that.
Yeah, man, for sure.
You take care of yourself. Say hi to your family. Love you, dude.
Thanks too, brother. We love you. Yeah, man.
All right, guys, that wraps up for another edition of Straight Up 5. I don't know what the hell we're going to do next week. It's kind of hard to top that, but I'm sure we'll Ocho, seriously. This fucking guy. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Straight Up 5.
The only person I know that doesn't lift weights for a year and his arms get bigger. 2 years.
No shit, years. Right? Like literally hasn't been in the gym in 2 years. I don't know how he does it. 12-pound curls, apparently. Good show, gentlemen. Good show. I believe we're supposed to have one of 2 guests next week. We will have a guest. I don't want to announce it yet until it's in the bag.
Yeah, until you announce my Twitter, then you can announce the guest.
Nobody cares about Twitter. Twitter's a dead medium, dude. Nobody's on there anymore. We want to. It is the X. We want to thank Fired Up Sports. We have a little partnership deal with them that they're going to broadcast our shows as part of their network, the Fired Up Sports Network. So we're proud to have. We're proud to be on their. We're proud to be on their team, and we're gonna. This is what we wanted. Like we've always had good shows, right, guys? But like we've always wanted to kind of move up to that next level and get noticed and try to pick up some steam because we do have one of the best shows, if not the best, out there. So this should be a step in the right direction.
And Popeyes, if you're listening,
Anyway, speaking of chicken, I got a chicken parm that's sitting over here, so I'm going to peace out, bro.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
And Troy was in the chat saying, "Thank everybody."
Thank you, Troy, for being.
Troy. See, Troy's such a team player. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. You can follow the show on Twitter at Straight Up 5 Pod Follow Johnny Jr. at JPJR07. Follow Rad Rob at Rad Rob Gaming. And follow Dr. Ocho at the Dr. Ocho. Got a question for Johnny? Send your questions to straightUp5podcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. Right here on the Rad Rob Radio Network.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.